How many hours? We're 8.5 hours into a mod survival. We literally just reached level cap. Maybe 5 minutes ago, I didn't pay too close attention. We did reach the level cap. You can see level 998, 99. It's fun around here. It's fun. I'm looking for the elusive level 10,001 enemies. There was one nully by on. Might be someone over there. Got the corruption. Come. Ah, there was a level 1. Yes! This bombard is level 10,001. Why do I make this video? No particular. Just wanted to show how the Stahlta is handling at max level. This is an alt fire build. The primary fire does not work on higher level. As you can see, the alt fire definitely does work. One big plus to the Stahlta is how it procs radiation in a massive area, and radiation is one of the best status effects in the game in higher levels, because these guys who don't have armor, only have shields or just health, when they get hit by a bombard rocket who's affected by radiation, they just immediately get one shot. Because bombards deal so much more damage than we can ever do as Tenno. That's because there is a misbalance between the enemy damage and the enemy damage scaling and the Tenno damage and the Tenno damage scaling. Yeah, as you can also see, the Stahlta Hellfire is like hella slow. I'm killing it with Wisp, just because I like Wisp, but also because I really enjoy having her buffs, having the extra fire rate and stuff like that. One thing that helps the weapon right here is how I'm running Arcane Rage. Arcane Rage is a really good arcane if you want to play with primary weapons. It just massively damage. One cheesy thing I also do is I run Primed Fulmination, which increases the range of the alt fire, which effectively increases my damage, but it also increases the radius in which I proc radiation on enemies, which is very nice for these kinds of tile sets. I set myself the goal to go to 9 hours. It's gonna do that while keeping commentary. I think you saw everything you need. I just kill enemies without really aiming at them. If it's a heavy gunner or a bombard, I need to aim for their head. The heavy gunner or a bombard, I need to aim for their head. Otherwise I don't. I just shoot in their general direction and they die. Of course, as any weapon, as any primary weapon on higher levels, this is a hunter munitions gun. Pray to get a hunter munitions slash. Get it, target probably dies. If you don't, the dark target definitely doesn't die. That's just how hunter munition works at higher level. Either get a slash or you don't get a slash. And this guy only has health, so I could theoretically kill him without hunter munitions, but even then it's kind of hard. Just completely. He healed back. Wait, why does he not take? That was weird. That was first. Why did he not take damage? Like, he took the damage, he just... Why did he heal so much? That was... Well... R29, I don't need to know. If you're wondering how exactly I'm staying alive, that little clone of myself in the distance, that is how I do it. On Wisp, when you have your second ability active, you're invisible. While you're in the air, you're also invisible. So I abuse a mix of staying in the air and recasting my second ability to stay permanently invisible. Plus, them being radiation affected makes them hit each other and my clones, so they target anything before they target me. Yeah. Gotta say though, this is mod. Usually I go for survival runs on Ani. Both void survivals, both exactly the same mission. Mod has the difference that enemies deal 4 times more damage, and I really think that mod is easier. I really think so, because the radiation on higher levels is really useful, and if they deal 4 times more damage than they usually would, then radiation is even stronger because they kill themselves even harder. And that's, I mean, kill each other. And that's really, really useful for me. They would be one-shotting me anyways if I'm on mod, if I'm on Nani, difference. Them hitting each other is so damn hard. It's really good. Also have to say, on Ani, I would, like, this is my first endurance Stahlta. Before that I would use the Mutalist Cernos, which I also have on a video. Check that out. And Mutalist Cernos had the issue that it didn't have any AoE, like any noticeable AoE on higher levels. So what would usually happen is that the enemies just like I would have to kill each enemy individually, and that would make life support horrible. Horrible. But I mean now it's on 20% because I didn't pick anything up in the last 5 minutes, but as you can see, life support is really good right now. I've got all my life support capsules up. The worst that would happen to me is that I would have to continuously pop the same life support capsule, wait until it respawns, and pop it again. But I was never forced to run around fanatically looking for life support, trying to function up. It was never a thing with the Stahlta. So this is like a very, very complacent run, I'd say. It's very pleasant to run around with the Stahlta, not having to bother too much about life support. Also, as you can probably tell, please stay the fuck away from me. Sorry, I gotta actually take care of these enemies. As you can notice, I'm not running Soul Gate on Wisp. I'm not running her normal fourth ability, I'm running Pillage. And there's a cool interaction with Pillage and Breach Surge, where usually when you cast it... Okay, I actually did it. Usually you can't cast Pillage right after Breach Surge. There's a very narrow timing where you have to do it. So it's some kind of very hard animation cancelling. Cancel an animation, it saves you like 1 second of cast time, just like basically running an extra natural talent on the plane. But if you teleport onto a mode, timing is really easy. So whenever you port onto a mode, you can just immediately cast Pillage while arriving, and you will get the increased Breach Surge, and you will get Pillage, both active at the same time. It's a really strong combo. I can fucking die with it. So I really, really like this combo that I found. And honestly, I've been running Pillage really long. So I'm surprised I only found this combo like a week. I've been running this specific combinations ever since the helmet system came out. But yeah, the more you know. Now I told you. Now I taught you about animation cancelling on Wisp. What else? What else is there to be seen? I think that's basically it. Yeah. If you're wondering why I'm never moving, it's because when you do endurance, usually you want to pick out a specific room that is very easy to keep control of with your specific frame abilities. And Wisp has really good line of sight crowd control, so what I want is a room where I can see... Why is this guy's... AI is really buggy when you... They just glitch all over the room. So when you use a frame, you need to make sure you know what they're good at. And Wisp's really good at keeping enemies under control when she has line of sight. So what I do is I put my motes right here in the center of the room. And that way I hit every enemy with my blind plus damage, which makes the whole thing a lot easier for me. There are other rooms that are really easy to take control of with specific other frames, mostly those who don't need line of sight. There's one famous void room where you just have the giant glass tree like this, giant glass tree in the center of the room. And there's a circular floor around it. and a circular floor above it as well. That's a very famous void room. Many people enjoy it because it's really good for AoE. It's also the tile set that is used for Elite Onslaught, so you might have seen it there too. It's very, very well liked by AoE frames that have no desire of line of sight. They can just stay in certain tough spots for enemies where they can't be shot at so easily. They can spam their non-line of sight AoEs onto the enemies. Makes it very easy for them to affect entire rooms without getting affected themselves. Um, yeah, so really, really enjoyable tile set, but it's not one of Wisp's strongest tile set. Wisp prefers to have line of sight, and because I'm using primary weapons, which can be fired from a very, very large distance, I also want to keep my distance from the enemy. I do not want to get close to them, because especially when the radiation proc engine are shooting each other, getting caught in the crossfire is just very, very tough. Oh, there's one more thing I can talk about. It's actually that if you check out my buffs in the upper right screen, the first thing you'll see is an X4 with some weird sign. That's the Vazarin thing. It allows me to instantly revive people, other people, myself. As you can probably guess, that's really fucking used solo mission. I just have Vazarin anyways because there's a thing called Protective Dash. If I dash on myself and don't miss it up, I'm actually invincible because of Protective Dash. That thing can really save your life sometimes, so I like to have it with me. But what you also will notice is that there's a weird HUD, weird icon, and there's 580 below it. That comes from my Panzer Vulpaphyla. It's a mod called Martyr Symbiosis. That mod has been bugged forever since its launch. What it would do is basically, whenever you kill an enemy, it still does that. Like whenever you kill an enemy, your Vulpaphyla will store a portion of the enemy's health up to a limit that is based on your own max health. And when you die, it will restore that amount of health to you. The downside is that theoretically the Vulpaphyla should die and it only keeps it invincible for like 2 seconds. The issue with the mod was that the Vulpaphyla just didn't die. So if you could kill enemies in a reasonable amount of time, just continuously stack that Vulpaphyla mod. So it was really overpowered. The thing is, I wasn't even aware of that because when you're using an invisible frame, generally don't die. So that's just not how invisible frames work. They just don't die. You may remember playing Elvira at some occasion. When you're invisible, enemies don't shoot at you, so you don't die. As such, I wasn't really aware about this bug until I was alerted by some friends that Inaros was currently the best endurance run frame because he could abuse that mod best. Very odd, Inaros is not an endurance run frame, but being able to abuse a certain type of bug sure changes a lot from that. I brought the cat along with the mod because I wanted to check if I can still die with it. I think the mod is still bugged, but not to the better, but to the worst extent. Because when I tested it, I just stood next to a high level. I just stood next to a high level heavy gunner. It was like 1.5 hours in before I even decided to go for an endurance run. The heavy gunner would, of course, kill me, and the mod would trigger, and the Vulpaphyla also died, so that was working as intended. But while I was invincible, I was stun locked in a weird stagger effect that is very similar to when you use quick thinking and they hit your energy directly. That is something that should not happen because I'm not using quick thinking and heavy gunners don't stagger. They never do. So for some reason, For some reason, I was affected by a stagger effect that should not have happened. And I'm not sure, I'm not entirely sure it's because of the mod, but I'm 99% sure it is because I've not experienced that stagger ever before or ever after this mod setup without that Vulpaphyla with that So there's definitely still some weird stuff going on with the mod, but it's definitely not overpowered anymore. If anything, there's some weird negative bugs with it. But yeah, I mean, you've seen me play for a while now. It's not like it's not like I've gotten hit before. And there's still shield gating. So if I ever get hit and shield gating procs, what I would usually do is I quickly cast my two times. That makes me invincible for 2 seconds. That's just what Wisp does. That's her normal ability. Whenever you recast it, you're seconds in it. Just costs a lot of energy, but I mean, it doesn't happen often. So I have 2 layers of complete bullshit invulnerability. I have not actually gotten to the 3rd layer of bullshit invulnerability, which is Vulpaphyla. I don't think I will ever do. Yeah, as such, the mod is definitely still usable. Really good actually. It's not overpowered anymore. But also, depending on what frame you use, there's no real incentive to use it actually, because I don't use this Vulpaphyla because I want this mod. Not at all. I'm using a Panzer Vulpaphyla because the Panzer Vulpaphyla spreads viral onto an entire room of enemies, which is hilariously broken by the way. I don't even run viral on any of my weapons, especially in the Stahlta. I don't run any element in Stahlta. But this Panzer Vulpaphyla that is permanently invisible because of which just procs viral onto the entire room and I just deal 4 times more damage for no real reason. That is why I'm using the Panzer Vulpaphyla. And I'm honest with you, that is really fucking overpowered. It's not a bug. It's intended. It's working as intended. It's just really overpowered. Because viral is overpowered and the Vulpaphyla itself is also really powerful. That is why I'm using the Panzer Vulpaphyla. But yeah, I'm obviously bringing them Vulpaphyla, so I might as well just test them out. Gotta say, the mod is working as intended, but it's not really useful. But there's no other mod that I would use, so might as well use it, right? There's nothing else I could. One other thing that the Vulpaphyla does, which is also working as intended, is whenever it feels like it, which is like every 10 seconds or so, it just completely removes the armor of one enemy. As you can see, there was, I mean, he died, damn. There was one heavy gunner that just didn't have any armor, and that's because my Vulpaphyla just decided, hey, I don't like you, so I'm going to remove your armor. And that is also very, very, very strong mod for an endurance player. So in general, Panzer Vulpaphylas are probably, if you don't run viral, Panzer Vulpaphylas are the best endurance companion you can have. Yep. Just because of the armor removal and this viral spread. And if you think you might actually get into dangerous situations, you play melee or you play, I don't know, frame that relies on quick thinking or something, healing, or Nidus, and you're afraid that run into Nullifier, lose your stacks, right? Then yeah, this mod called Martyr Symbiosis, which revives you, is definitely a good mod, but obviously you just oh, there, it did it again. The bomber lost its health, it lost all its armor before I killed it. That was my Vulpaphyla again. As you can tell, me talking and not concentrating too much on killing enemies has resulted in me losing a little bit of life support, so I'm just gonna pop a life support capsule and we're gonna be right back. Also, there's a huge crowd of enemies, so I'll just take care of that now and the biggest issue I've seen with the Stahlta so far is these, their name, Arctic Eximus units. Yes, Arctic Eximus units. These Arctic Eximus units with their Cold Spear are kind of hard for the Stahlta because your secondary fire doesn't actually really destroy those things, and neither does your primary fire, so you're just like praying that the radiation affected enemies around that Arctic Eximus will just shoot it, and thus proc the Cold Spear and allow you to continue. As you can tell that is probably not the strategy. Nullifiers aren't actually that big of an issue, because you can use your primary fire, the one that's actually pretty useless in terms of damage, to shoot down the nullifier bombs. Very nice. Bad guy. So yeah, Stahlta, pretty good gun. Pretty good gun. At this point we've been at max level for like, I don't know how long, 10 minutes. What I definitely know is that these enemies are sure not getting any tougher, and there's really not much point in staying in. So I'm planning to leave as soon as I hit, which is in the next 5 minutes. So, accompany on my last 5 minutes of killing max level enemies in a 9-hour survival run on mod. You might wonder, why exactly do I do this? That is a question that is very good. First answer I have to you is yes. Let's change the topic. Did you guys know that there is no endgame in Warframe? I mean, that has nothing to do with 9-hour endurance run, of course, because why would it have anything to do with that? But did you know that there is no endgame in Warframe? So whenever people do these types of endurance runs, I mean, this has nothing to do with endurance runs, but whenever people do endurance runs, they just wonder, like, is there any specific purpose to doing this? Do I get any scaling rewards or some devilish stuff like that? Like, scaling rewards, that is... I mean, I'll just explain the term scaling rewards as a concept that when you stay longer in a mission, you get more rewards and better rewards because you stay longer and it gets harder. It's a very foreign concept, I know, but hear me out. So the idea is that when you do a hard mission that gets harder, get better results for staying longer. Now I know this is a new concept. This is a completely new concept. This has never before been done. Like there's never been a WoW concept, a World of Warcraft concept where if you do a hard raid on high levels, you get better rewards. That is not a thing. Or in other, like, imagine you're doing Borderlands and you're playing on Mayhem mode, and I don't know which Mayhem mode, like 9th, 10th, 20th, 100, I don't exactly know how it works ever since they changed it. Imagine you're doing Mayhem mode, every enemy does a bazillion more damage, you get one shot by everything, which is insane, zero by the way. Those don't also, I mean, those get extra rewards, but like that has nothing to do with Borderlands just likes handing out rewards. So yeah, I mean, scaling rewards a very foreign concept, especially to especially to game designers. Um, but yeah, those don't exist in Warframe. Like there's no incentive for you to be this mission for 20 minutes over for 9 hours over 20 minutes because basically you get the same. And it's not just like this in normal missions. It's also like this in missions where you're actually incentivized by DE to go longer. A good example is arbitrations. I mean, what are arbitrations? Good questions. The game mode doesn't exist anymore because apparently no one cares about it for good reason. But arbitrations were originally designed to be a very challenging mode for players because they would perma-die if they died once. That isn't a thing anymore. You can revive, and arbitrations are most notoriously known for not having any life support, ever, and also having these weird arbitration drones that disable all your ability effects on enemies, which makes 3/4 of all frames completely unplayable. Yeah, that is why arbitrations are not played. The other reason why they're not really played, despite being bad in terms of gameplay, is that there is no incentive. You can do a 5-minute arbitration run, and you get better rewards than if you were to do a 9-hour run. Because arbitrations have scaling rotations. So you start with A, you go to B, then you go to C, and then you stay at C. But the best mods in arbitrations are locked rotation A, so you can only get them in the first 5 minutes. You cannot get them afterwards. The good example of that is adaptation. Adaptation, the best mod to get to come to us from arbitrations, is locked rotation A. If you do a longer run, you will never get adaptation. Which is one of the main reasons why players even play the game mode. Because adaptation is so good that they want the mod. So DE actively incentivizes people to not play arbitrations. Go there for 5 minutes, one rotation, and then get the fuck out of there and wait an hour for the next arbitration, because those only set once an hour and you can only play them once. As you can tell, life support is getting kind of a struggle because I'm talking so much. But we're gonna leave soon anyway. Let's find one or few more. Let's have level 10,000. Come on, he died. Come on, come on. Oh, that one's level. Those are. Oh, there! A level 10,001 nullifier. The worst of the worst scum. Come on. Oh. See, he was killed by his own people because he was radiation affected, so I didn't even have to do anything. Awesome, and that's an enemy without armor because my Panzer Vulpaphyla won. Is there a level 10,000 enemy? He has armor, but he's basically dead already. As you can tell, radiation is a really strong status effect. I can't even find enemies to kill. Hello? Jesus, where are they? Come on, you level... Yes! He's level 10,000 and not affected by anything. Is that going to be enough? Yes, it's it. Yes! Okay. Instant one-shot on a level 10,000 enemy because who was not affected by any viral, not even by my Vulpaphyla. So I just straight one-shot a level 10,000 enemy. And it was even a heavy gunner. It wasn't just some bomber or some butcher who have little health. No, it was even a heavy gunner. Though as you can tell, the Stahlta, it definitely works on higher levels. It definitely really good weapon, really good usability, really good utility with radiation. The only thing you desperately do, is you need fire rate on the thing. Because once again, the primary fire is not usable. So you really need the secondary fire, and the secondary fire is so slow without fire rate. As you can tell, even with the 40% fire rate that my modes provide. Oh, yes! Oh, you won't die through that. That was not a good hit. That was really not a good hit. Okay. Even though I have 40% fire rate from my modes, the alt fire still feels kind of slow. Oh, whoa, never mind. He actually... Okay, he was completely launched into outer space. That's a good way to finish this mission, my friend. That's a... That's a very good way to finish. This is also a room that players really like. This one has a lot of line of sight, but it's also called a gangbang room. Because enemies completely fire at you from all angles and nullifiers spawn on every side, they jump down on you, so that room is very dangerous, but also very fun. In an endurance run, you prefer the safety. Once the Profit Taker sign goes away, okay, I know. Once the Profit Taker sign, I was about to say, goes away, I can show you that this is actually a 9-hour run. Yeah, the rewards aren't really important, but the statistics. Let's go over the statistics, because I could have done the entire run with a melee weapon, couldn't I, and be a filthy melee abuser. But no, I don't know where these skills come from, maybe bullet jumping kills, but I've actually not used the melee weapon a single time. Those 4 melee kills, God knows where they come from. This is the one death that I talked about when Martyr Symbiosis stagger locked me for some reason. It was really weird. But once again, that was 1.5 hours in. What else? Abilities used. 3,000. My fire. My. Apparently, I had a 0% hit rate. That's very good to know. That is a very good statistic. Thank you to E for telling me that I'm a great player who has not hit a single enemy in the entire mission. Oh, that is revive some players. I was wondering. I revived myself, obviously. I had to revive. Otherwise, I could not do it. Well, yeah. Who knows? Was a good mission. Was great fun. I specifically liked the Tenno space program in the end, where I launched that bomber completely into the air. I think that was not me, but at Tenno, weapons don't usually launch enemies into space anymore because they removed some of the physics that allowed for that. But enemies still ragdoll into space, so if you use radiation and an enemy gets killed by a bombard rocket that hits his feet, he often gets launched into space, and I think that's what happened. I think he just got hit by something at his feet and it launched him right into outer space at the same time that I hit him. Very, very, very amusing moment. Ah, yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this short recording. Hope to see you around. Bye. Oh, wait. Before I finish, I should show you the build, shouldn't I? Thank you for 50 credits. What is the next reward? Awesome cage. Okay. Thank you for the 50,000 credits. Yeah, I needed that. How much credits did I get from them? 300,000. That is not much. But yeah, the build. The Wisp build is a very standard build. I run a little bit of power strength, a little bit of a lot of duration actually for my second ability and the efficiency so that I don't run out of energy, and a little bit less than base range. And the only real strange things here is I run these two mods. This one allows you to stay floating on the same spot while you aim glide. This is very useful on a frame that goes invisible in the air. And this one allows you to aim glide longer. So this is a very nice combination on any frame where you want to stay in the air, and Wisp is one of those frames, the way I play it. As for the rest, yeah, as I said, some durations. I do run Pillage, as I said. Remember, animation cancelling, very cool, very fancy, do it. Yeah. And that's the Wisp build. The Stahlta build is a lot more interesting. I run Prime Bane of this is a straight secondary fire 100 munitions build. So what I need to tell you here is elemental damage does not affect slash damage. So I don't put any elemental mods on here to make sure that my slashers do the most damage. On high level, you need to make some type of you need to have some type of effect that negates armor. Slash completely bypasses armor. Could run corrosive heat, of course, not as good on higher level, but it is a possibility. Yeah, that's armor strip, of course. Frame abilities use strip armor. I think Kildren with 400% power strength, Pillage with 400% power strength completely strips armor, but I can't run 400% power strength on Wisp. Just impossible with any type of reasonable build. So I can't fully armor strip with the Wisp, and you need to fully strip armor to make that effective. So I use Slash to bypass them with 100 munitions. What 100 munitions slashes do scale with is crit and base damage and multi-shot. So with base damage from Serration, with Arcane Rage with it, which is even more base damage. We have Split Chamber for the multi-shot. Multi-shot obviously wonderful. Then we have crit with Point Strike and Vital Sense. We have even more crit and base damage with this Riven, which is not an amazing Riven. It's a normal Riven. This is what you call usable. 2 out of 5 dispo, nothing amazing, really. Damage crit chance, nothing amazing. As you can see, Serration has more damage than this, and Point Strike has more crit chance than this. It's good to have, it really is. Don't get me wrong, Rivens are useful, but this is not an amazing god roll or anything. This is a good, solid roll, nothing fancy. This is Vigilante Supplies, which on its special effect gives you even more chance to crit. Very useful. So what this does is mostly it pushes my yellow crits into orange crit territory, so that I mostly get orange crits. Sometimes it pushes my orange crits into red crit territory. That doesn't happen often, and the odds of getting a red crit and having it slash and having it be a headshot are really low. When it happens, it gets like 2 million damage slashes. It's insane damage, but it doesn't really happen all that often. I don't think you saw it a single time. It happened like 5 times in the entire 9-hour run, so really not consistent. But this is all about getting orange crit consistency, and really important, ammo conversion. This is basically making sure that I never run out of ammo. Very, very pleasant, because Stahlta, it has fine ammo economy, but it's not good ammo economy, especially if you spam the alt fire. So having this mod really helps me. Okay, and now we get to the cheesy part. Prime Bane of Corrupted is one of the best mods if you only fight the Corrupted, obviously, and if you want to amplify status damage effect. Bane mods are only good for amplifying status damage effects, and Slash is a status damage effect, so Prime Bane of Corrupted is insanely good for amplifying my slash damage. It's 55 straight more damage. So 1.5 times more damage. Literally 1.5 times more damage. Insanely good. Insanely good mod. Only for these types of status damage effects. Most of the community hates Bane mods because they're not fun to use. They're very fun to use if you like big damage numbers, but in normal gameplay they're really useless. They're only really good for endurance. Then there's Prime Firestorm, the newest Prime mods brought to us by Barrow like a month or two ago. Very fun. Because unlike the normal Firestorm, which is not really good, unlike the normal Firestorm, which only gives you 24% blast radius increase, this gives you 66% more blast radius increase, which is nearly triple the amount of blast radius. What this mod does is it increases the radius. It increases the radius of my alt-fire from 7.2 meters to 12 meters. That is 4.8 more meters radius. This weapon has fall off, and the fall off also, like fall off works the way that you do less damage on the outer edges of your attack, and it's a linear fall off. So you linearly do less damage. You do 100% at the center, and 70%, 30% on the outer edges. So in the middle distance, you'll do something like 60% of your total damage. So increasing your range also increases your effective damage as it is affected by fall off. So Firestorm helps me deal more damage in a larger radius, but it also helps me proc radiation on enemies in a big radius. And radiation, as I told you before, radiation is so good on endurance runs, as I had to find out here. Enemies just kill each other all the time and blast each other into outer space too. They target each other and not me. It's just a really good stat effect to have. So yeah, big thumbs up for the Stahlta because it has radiation. It's really good at cheesing, I'd say. It has good crit stats, it has good base damage, and has good 100 munitions synergy and good Firestorm synergy. So I just get the most out of this weapon by putting on very strong mods that specifically help me increase the potential of this specific weapon. So yeah, that's it for the Stahlta. I mean, nothing else matters here because I have not used this weapon a single time in the entire mission. I just have this one because it has a cool name, and I put this one because it looks really stylish. Like, just look at how it sword just covered in blood, and it's perfectly synced to my eyes. Looks really fucking cool. I just love the style of this weapon on it. So, yeah. That. That made the video a lot longer than it had to be, but sorry, I like talking about my builds. And if you see me doing an endurance run to the max level, you will probably want to know why exactly I used the loadout that I used. So yeah, that's that. See you guys around. Hope you had fun.